pretty soon, the numbers will level out and we'll be able to get started. Still got a few more coming in right now. Still a few more coming in. Welcome everyone to the Wilmette Institute's second WI Live of the current pandemic situation. We want to thank everyone for logging in today. We are looking forward to sharing many other live broadcasts with you in the upcoming months. Today, we will be discussing the use of community technology that will help you work together as a community. Last time, remember, we covered Zoom. Today, we are going to be covering doodle polls so that you can determine the best time to hold a meeting with everybody, and the use of Google Docs so that you can, for example, edit minutes of local spiritual assemblies together or edit other documents as a group from different places on different computers. And again, we want to thank Vahid Masroor, a psychologist in San Diego, California, who is a tech expert, for organizing this particular program, putting together the slides and the other content of it, and helping us to prepare to provide you this material today. To begin with, of course, we want to remind everybody that they need to pay very close attention to the current medical situation in the country and the world for that matter. The number of coronavirus cases in the United States is now beginning to climb very, very sharply. What I saw was 4,000 more than yesterday and 7,000 more than about a day and a half ago. So you have to be very, very alert of that. Please be sure to wash your hands and be careful what you're touching, especially if you're touching your face, in order to protect yourself from the transmission of this particular virus. Please also be very careful to get accurate medical advice. Don't just take anything you see on Facebook. There's a lot of very strange things that are being posted to Facebook about the coronavirus and COVID-19. The Centers for Disease Control has a very good website that you can take a look at, and the World Health Organization also. And of course, there we certainly want to encourage everybody to be very careful about all that. Furthermore, be very aware of this in your area. We just saw an email, for example, the governor of Illinois has ordered everyone to shelter in place. These things change very quickly. The mayor of my city has ordered everyone to shelter in place, but 1,000 feet from me in the next town, they're not required to shelter in place. So these things can change very quickly. And please be aware of what the laws are in your area, the regulations, and what you are allowed to do and what you're being very strongly discouraged from doing in order to protect your health and the health of everybody else in your area. So as I said today, we're going to talk about two very useful collaboration tools. We also would like to have your input as to what we should cover in our third community tech video, which will be Monday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 5:30 p.m. Pacific Time. We have some ideas already, obviously, and we've already put them out. But if you have other suggestions or if you have questions about today's presentation, we have an email address specially designed for them, Community Tech. That's all one word, COMMUNITYTECH, Community Tech at wilmetteinstitute.org. I might be better off spelling Wilmette Institute because that's often hard. We're not Willamette, we're Wilmette, WILMETTE, Wilmette Institute, INSTITUTE, and of course that's all one word in our email address, .org. So with that and the reminder that anything that we say today is not official guidance from the National Spiritual Assembly or the Wilmette Institute, but purely the spontaneous opinions of those who are online today, I want to turn this over to Vahid Masroor, with great thanks and gratitude again for your presentation to our audience. Thank you, and please take it on. Take it over here, Vahid.
Thank you so much, Rob. It's a pleasure to share again some tips, ideas, and a few tricks to facilitate online work with the community at large. So I'll start sharing a little bit of a presentation to hopefully help us focus on the topics at hand. we, as Rob just mentioned, have an email address established so that questions regarding the use of tech and suggestions regarding the use of tech for community life can be shared. So if you have tools that you find useful, if you have suggestions on how to do things that are useful, please send them to us so that we can share it with the audience of the Wilmed Institute. That we hope that this is one of the possible ways to communicate and share. And with that said, you're welcome to write down one single thing for today's webinar. This is the address where you will find the handouts and the link to these very slides. So you don't need to write everything that's on the slides. You just need to write down the following address, bit.ly/WI Community Tech 2. And this will take you to a document where there will be more information made available and that you can use to look at back again and find all the contents you need. So there's no need to write down everything that's being said. Just write down this address, bit.ly/WI Community Tech 2. And so what are we going to discuss today? As Rob was mentioning, we'll discuss just two tools today. The first one is Doodle, a tool that helps us find time to collaborate together. And a second tool, which is Google Docs, which allows us to work on documents in a shared manner at the same time when we need to, or asynchronously at different times when that's preferable. We'll also share a few tips on what to do and what not to do to make sure that the virtual collaboration is smooth. We know it's a new world, and so it's useful to have a few tips to get started. And of course, we'll have a Q&A, so keep your questions coming, and we'll see if it's better to insert the questions into the demonstrations of what we're doing or to have them at the end. And so in order to set our minds for this new world of collaborating online, I wanted to suggest a couple of quotations that might inspire us and help us find these new mindsets. And the first one is from Abdul Baha, and I would like to ask if Nikki could read this. I apologize for the small lettering. It's a longer paragraph, but Nikki, if you have a sense. Yes.
Cool. I've got it. Thank you. And thus, when contemplating the human world, thou beholdest this wondrous phenomenon shining resplendent from all sides with the utmost perfection, inasmuch as in this station, acts of cooperation, mutual assistance, and reciprocity are not confined to the body and to things that pertain to the material world, but for all conditions, whether physical or spiritual, such as those related to minds, thoughts, opinions, manners, customs, attitudes, understandings, feelings, or other human susceptibilities. In all these, thou shouldst find these binding relationships securely established. The more this interrelationship is strengthened and expanded, the more will human society advance in progress and prosperity. Indeed, without these vital ties, it would be wholly impossible for the world of humanity to attain true felicity and success.
So I invite you to come back to this slide later on and the quotation that it offers. And we are going to, for those that are new to the idea of online collaboration and working together on documents, we are going to have the possibility to experiment with this idea of finding the way to work on mutual assistance and reciprocity and cooperation, make acts of cooperation, mutual assistance, and reciprocity, and see how our minds, our thoughts, opinions, manners, customs, attitudes, understandings, feelings, and other human susceptibilities start expressing this new state of unity. And the second part, second quotation that I was looking at that I think is very pertinent for our time is the following. Boyd, if you could please help us with the reading.
Present-day society heaves and cracks in stress of portentous events. As the fissures, cleavage separating nation from nation, class from class, race from race, the prosecutors of the planet in their spiritual lives and creative activities, and stem of concerted effort, of mutual assistance, and development in their collective enterprise. Shoghi Effendi, Citadel of Faith. Nice.
So, of course, on the field, when we are doing home visits, when we are meeting face-to-face with friends, it's easier to understand, or it's very concrete. It helps us understand, that experience is very concrete and helps us understand what mutual assistance and harmonious development requires. And now we're taking these possibilities and trying to make them work online. So in the last meeting we were discussing, in the last webinar we were discussing video conferencing as one space where we can demonstrate a higher standard of concerted efforts. And now we're going to discuss today how to take this our online collaboration and working on documents to a new level, a new standard of concerted effort, mutual assistance, and of harmonious development. So while this might be looked at as a test, it might also give us the opportunity to actually do things that we hadn't thought necessary or even possible, maybe in some cases. So let's move on to tool number one. The tool number one is tries to solve a difficulty we've all had, I'm sure, which is when do we meet? How do we arrange for a group of people that have their own personal agendas with their own different requirements, their own commitments to things? How do we find time to meet? And so one way to go about it is to make, if the group is, let's say 9 people, just a random number, if 9 people need to agree on the time to meet, and we can't really be face-to-face and having a quick coordination, verbal coordination, how do we find time to meet? So the first tool we'll be discussing addresses precisely this issue, and the tool is called Doodle. You will be able to find it at doodle.com, and it's a tool that is quite simple to use. Again, it's free. It does not require even to sign up for the tools, but if you sign up, you'll get some added benefits. We won't go into that today. We'll just look at the simplest use of Doodle possible, which is to just create a poll of showing different times available for a meeting, and then inviting people to vote on the different options that are offered. So in order to find this time to meet, we'll be doing 2 things. We'll be first creating a poll, and I will be showing this live right now. And then we're going to send the poll to the friends that are participating. So I've enlisted Boyd, Rob, and Nikki so that they will help us demonstrate how this works. And I'll be going to doodle.com immediately. And I'll be opening the web page. And immediately on the Doodle page, so you can see the start of 14-day free trial. That's not what you want. You just want to go to the button that says Create a Doodle. So as you click on Create a Doodle, it will immediately offer you, you don't need to sign up, you don't need to put any credit card, you don't need to do anything special other than create directly the survey. So what's the occasion? I'm going to make a devotional number 1 meeting. I'm going to add a location. So add a location usually would be a physical address, maybe my home or Rob's home or someone else's. And you can also use online options. And this is something that I'm guessing they've been adding more recently. But let's say we'll have a Zoom conference, since we discussed Zoom last time. So I'm indicating that the occasion, the meeting we're going to have is devotional number 1. The location is Zoom, and I can add a note, maybe something like, as discussed, we'll have the devotional. Please let us know when works for you. All right, so I'm just giving general information about what the meeting will be about. You can fill that in any way you want. Then I click on continue, and then I'm offered the option to work on a calendar and look at what my week looks like. It's a calendar for Doodle only. It's not connected to my calendar. And so I can look at next week and see, put a few options. I think 10 a.m. would be a good time, and I could do this, have a 1-hour meeting on, let's say, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. So those are the options I'm setting. I'm sending these options to my friends so that they can decide which option works better for them. And I'm asking them to vote on which options they consider that fits best for them. So once I have these options, I'm going to continue. And please do note that at the bottom, it offers me to select the time zone. So usually Doodle will detect where I am located at, and then will ask me if that time zone is correct. If you are meeting with friends that are in different time zones, the Doodle will show it in their time zone when they connect. They connect to the poll. So I continue, and then I have a few different options. We don't need really to go into the details of the different options right now, but you can please take a look and experiment with your friends to see what what these options mean, and then I continue. So I can continue without an account, and I just need to add a name so that people know where this is coming from, and I can add my email so that I can get information. I can be informed when people are voting. So with that, I'm ready. I'm finished. And what Doodle has created for me is a link. So I can copy the link. And once I have copied the link, I can directly go into my inbox and create an email that I will share with Boyd, Rob, and Nikki. You can invite anyone you want. Nicola, yeah. And I'm going to put as a subject that this is a poll for devotional time. And I'm sharing the link. This is all I really need to do. I could add more information, but what I really need to do is to make sure that everyone has an access to the link. So I've sent this email right now, and what is going to happen is that the friends I've just invited are receiving an email, and they can look on their calendar at the options for the vote. So I don't know if maybe Nikki, we can look at your screen. You would like to share your screen so that we can see what it looks like for you.
Okay.
And I'm going to stop sharing.
Received on my end.
Great. So Nikki, if you would like to share your screen, great.
Right. So here I clicked on the link in my email, and I see exactly what Vahid wrote. So I'm going to see the options.
I've got it too.
So here it shows me, and this is in my time zone, as Vahid was saying. He put it in his time zone, and it has automatically converted to my time zone. So I'm going to say, I'm going to put my name in so he knows who is responding. And I'm going to, and there Boyd has already done this. I'm going to send mine. There we go.
I've just sent mine.
That's it. Let me see if I can refresh. No, I'd have to subscribe to updates, but let me go back to poll. Because you can change your mind afterwards. If you made a mistake, you can go back, I think, and change it. So I can edit and say, well, I can't make it on Wednesday, so I'm updating it now.
Good, we can all make it on Monday.
Yeah,
Great.
looks so. Or Tuesday.
Or Tuesday.
Great.
Yeah,
So-
Monday it is. Monday's the best time. There we go.
Exactly. So it does a very simple job of tallying up and showing the results for us. And so if I go back to my poll now, I will share my screen again. And I will open the poll again. And so let's see what it looks like for me now. So I'm the organizer of the meeting and I haven't voted, but I can just put that these are my options. I will send it. All right, so now I can go back to the poll. Oop, click on the wrong button. So no, I don't want to sign up and start paying. I just want to go back to my poll. And so once that is done, it's pretty easy to see. Oh, okay. Send. Okay. And now, okay, so now it's very clear. We've all voted. I voted twice. Okay, that's a mistake. But I clicked on too many things, I'm afraid. But anyways, I can just trash this one, and now we get the right numbers. So it's the tallying of the poll is already done by Doodle itself, and very clearly the favorite option is Monday, and because we have 4 votes. So that would be the natural choice for if we want to have as many friends participating as possible. We'll just go with what the highest vote is, and this is all we need to really coordinate. So now I could go to back to my email and send an email, say we've agreed, or the most votes go to the Monday option, and this is when we'll have the Monday meeting. So Doodle will not do this last part for you. You need to write your own email saying this is the result of the votation and the votes, and people can go to the poll if they want to verify that, yes, this was the option that was the most voted for. And with that, we have found a tool that can help us agree on times to meet, and we can send it to as many people as we want. I'm not sure. So actually, because all we are doing is sharing a link, we can send it through our personal email at no cost and see how many people vote during the poll. So that's the first tool we wanted to cover, how to find time to meet together. I don't know if there are questions up to now.
One from YouTube, it says, to avoid it would be good to include info and emails, and also to do communication methods and time email.
Okay, but you'll notice that on the email I sent, the email comes from me, so that would be a trusted address, and the link that we are sharing is explicit, it's visible, so that should also reduce the risk of phishing, because we are sharing a link that is clearly verifiable to the friends. And if you want to make double sure that this is the right address, if you look at the bottom left of your screen, you will see that the address that is underlined in my email is also visible at the bottom and says the same thing as what the link says. So that's a good precaution. Always double check that the links that are highlighted really take you to the websites that they're supposed to take you to.
Wayne made a comment that we could have run ad blocker so that ads don't pop up on this screen, and I'm not aware of how ad blocker works. But that might be something people can keep in mind if they're trying to send something out to a large number of people. It may very well be with the free version, you can't block the ads, though. I don't know.
I haven't tested it with ad blockers on. You'd have to see if the Doodle tool functions correctly or not.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons it's free is because their advertising is popping up on both sides. So that's how they're making some money. So they may not allow ad blocker. I don't know.
All right, so we've covered tool number 1, and then now it's time for the main course, which is the collaboration around a document. So we're going to look at what, in my experience, is really the best tool for collaboration around a document. It's called Google Doc. I'll start by saying that Google Doc has one significant limitation. It requires people to have a Gmail account to really fully collaborate with it. So if you are, let's say, members of an assembly that want to work together on a document, or a group of friends that is trying to put their ideas together, the only limitation that this tool has is that it requires people to have a Gmail account to fully participate.
Or a paid version that you had.
That's right. So if you have a paid version, you're free to use it. However, Gmail is free, so this is not really an impediment to participate. It might be a little bit limiting, or people might need a few minutes to set up a Gmail account. But other than that, that's the only limitation that the tool really has. And so how do we go about creating a Google Doc? Once people have a Gmail account, or a Google account if you prefer, what will happen is that on your Gmail, you'll find, or even in your browser, you can just type docs.google.com. Once you're in your Gmail, the windows of your browser that has the Gmail open. And when you type docs.google.com, you'll have this interface that shows up, this page, the web page that shows up, and you can create a blank document. So that's the simplest way to start. We'll only focus on a blank document today. So we start a new document. And the document looks a little bit like Word, when Word was back in the, let's say, late 90s, a simpler tool, let's say. And this is a document that's ready to go with a blank page. So we can start writing document to put our ideas together. And this is a document that at this point in time, I have created on my Gmail account. And now I would like to invite a few people to work with me on this document. So again, I'm going to ask Boyd, Rob, and Nikki to collaborate with me. So the key button we need to look at today is the share button. And before that, maybe I can explain how share works on Google Docs. So there are different levels of sharing, and that's a novel concept that we need to wrap our minds around. In Google Doc, we can collaborate in different ways. The simplest way of collaboration is, hey, you're invited, you can read this document. That's all you can do about it. If you have comments, suggestions, whatever, call me, send me an email, and you can only look at the documents. So this is one way to collaborate. We create a document, and we just want people to read through it. A second level of collaboration is inviting people to suggest into the document. So this is when people cannot really modify the documents. They can make suggestions that I will approve or reject, because that's how much I love my friends, and I think this is the best way to handle collaboration. A third level is editing. So we're all peers. We're all together in this document, and we all have an equal level of capability of modifying the document. Changes will still be tracked, and we'll discuss that in a few minutes. But that's the third level of collaboration that we have. And if you want to go all the way in collaboration, if you're ready to go and trust the internet with the documents, you can also make everyone connected to the internet welcome to edit the documents. Now, this is an option that I don't recommend you try before you've experimented a bit with Google Doc. And I've seen good results of the Google Docs being open to a wide variety of people sharing contents, ideas into a document. But of course, you will also find that sometimes collaboration on the internet is not as great as we would like it to be, and some people might be doing things that you don't appreciate. So the usual right level of collaboration is between level 2 and level 3. Either have people make suggestions on the documents, or make them your peers and have them edit together with you the documents. So how does that work on Google Docs? Let's look at my empty Google Doc. So I have this document, and a key part here is that I need to give it a title and or a name, and then to the top left, there's a little box where we can put a name to the documents. It's like naming the file that we'll be working with. And we are indicating that this file will be saved in my Google Drive, which is the repository where I put all my Google documents. So I've given a name to my document already. And now the button we want to look at is the Share button. So when we are sharing a Google Doc, we are inviting people to look at the documents. And the way the usual sites will be that the collaboration is off. And that's what a Gmail user usually would see. And we can invite people by writing down their address. So I'm going to invite Rob. And I'm going to invite Nikki. And I'm going to invite Boyd. So you can see that I've added their emails, and they all have access to Gmail accounts. Those are all Gmail addresses. And to the right, I'm seeing a button that has a pen on it. So this pen indicates that I'm inviting them to edit. They will be my peers. They can change the documents exactly the same way I do. We're all peers equal in our capability to edit the documents. I could also limit their options, so I can put them on a suggesting mode with the can comments, or just a view mode. You can look at the documents, but you can't do anything with it directly. So we'll start by the simplest way of editing. Everybody can edit, and it's a free-for-all. Only those 3 people I'm inviting can access a document and edit it. I'm going to add a note. Friends, please come edit this. And I'm going to sign it because that's the way I like to do it. And I'm making sure that the notify people is turned on. That means that Gmail will send each participant an email saying you're invited to edit this document. So I'm sending it, I'm sure, and it's warning me that Boyd has a strange email address. It's not sure what I want to do with it, but I'm pretty sure that Boyd's a good guy, so I'm inviting him. So once they've been invited, they will receive an email with a big blue button that says, join the document, come edit.
I got it.
Great. So that's pretty immediate. And please notice that there's a little face that appeared here. This is Nikki's user. There's an R for Rob, and then there's Boyd's. So we are seeing who is writing in this document. So that's those indicators of faces at the top right are showing us that these persons that have invited to the documents are now participating in looking and modifying the documents.
Vahid, maybe you can make your screen percentage there.
Right away. How's that? Better? Yeah. So if I click on the different icons for the users, Google Docs will take me immediately right where they are in the Google Doc. So if this was a document of a few pages, I could find where the users are participating, and immediately the participants are doing things. So here I'm saying something that's, oh, someone had a typo here. So Rob went ahead and modified that. But you can see that we can also go into the text that people have written about and add text right where people are participating in. So we are typing at the same time, and we're going to add a few more blocks of text just as an example of contents. So let's add a little more text to make the document look more beefy. And now we have a great picture that's been added. So this is all things you can do. We will not go into all the things that a Google Doc can do, but we'll share some links for you to find more videos explaining stuff on the Google Doc. And we have also a few comments here, so that's great. So now everyone has seen how 4 people, so Rob, Nikki, Boyd, and me, are collaborating, working at the same time on a document. So this is what technicians would call synchronous collaboration. We are doing it at the same time. So at 11:36 on a Saturday morning, we're all working together at the same document. However, I've given Rob, Boyd, and Nikki the possibility to edit this document at any time. So anytime they want to, they can come back to this document and keep on editing it. So we don't have to be at the same time working on a document. Boyd might decide that on a Saturday at 11 p.m., that's his better window to work on the document. He can come back to the document and edit it at that time if that works better for him.
7 a.m.
He might decide to
7 a.m.
7 a.m. Okay, that's your schedule. And then Nikki could decide to come back to this document on Monday and start modifying different aspects of the documents. She's welcome to do it anytime she wants. So we've looked at the basic editing and inviting people in. Now, as you remember, as per the slide, the option that we've used is called the editing level of trust of collaboration. So I've allowed them to edit as my peers. And now we'll go into what suggesting looks like.
I did some suggesting. I switched myself to suggestion mode.
Right. So let's look a little bit at what that might work like. So first, we'll discuss a little bit the tool of comments, how to use comments, and adding comments to a text. And then we can go into the suggesting mode. So when we are looking at text, we might find that there are some aspects that we are not sure with. So what we want to do is highlight the text. Maybe there's a sentence here that is not the grammar is not correct, or it doesn't sound right. So I can underline the text I'm looking at and click on comments, add a comment. And once I'm there, I can add a comment that says Nikki, or maybe I will just add a general comment for everyone to see. I'm not so sure about this. So this comment is going to be linked to a part in the text. So if anybody clicks on the text that we are working on, I am showing the comment will be highlighted. This comment applies to this part of the document. And maybe, Nikki, you could reply to my comment. So Nikki can come to the text, and she looks at it. She looks at my comment. I'm not so sure about this. And Boyd has replied and said, me too. He's not sure either that this part of the text really works. And so with that, it looks like we're agreeing this is not what we would hope. And then Rob went ahead and
Sorry.
went a little bit ahead of the explanation. But then we have Nikki. Let's say it this way. Oh, Lorem editum gravitas. Oh, okay, that looks better. So I can actually, I'm going to make it the quick way. I'm going to copy and paste that into the text right here. Because yeah, that's, if we write it this way, it looks better. So when I did that, actually, I'm going to put it here so we don't lose the original text. So this part is done for. We are not keeping it. So, and we've discussed it. So you see that the comments here allowed the participants to discuss different things in the regarding this comment I had made. And we have reached an agreement. So now I can click on resolve. And the suggestion is gone, right? And the discussion actually was about this part, which we don't like. And we're deleting it because it's not what we really wanted to have there. So this is an example of how we work through the document. We are collaborating in improving the document by making comments and answering each other's question. Now, another trick that's quite nifty is that the comments allow us to also make comments for specific people. So what that means is that I'm going to add a plus, and it shows me who is in a few friends that are connected with me on my Gmail accounts. And so I'm going to request from Nikki to double check that grammar, please, because she's our grammar expert. So I would like really her input on this. And you can see that because I've added the plus and her email, there's an option now that shows up and says assigned to Nicola Davis. So if I do that, she will get an email warning her that Vahid is requesting her specific input about this part of the document. So it will be easier for her to find that, what I'm talking about, and to improve, modify, edit the document. So this is open for her to come back to. She can do whatever she sees important about these edits, and then she can mark it as done once she's good with it. So Nikki, could you do something to that strange word there? And can it wait until tomorrow? Okay, well, no problem. We're all very busy at this time. So there you go. And now she went ahead and modified the word and marked the assignment as the task as done. So we have, what I did there was open a comment. I used the character plus, then the email address, and I clicked on assign to a specific person. So this way we can share different tasks around the documents. If those were minutes from a meeting and the minutes have different tasks that different people need to do, you can use the same trick. You can add a comment and assign the different tasks to different people. That's another way to go about tracking the what is going on in the documents.
Vahid, could you show the share button again? Someone missed it. It's right there at the top right in blue.
That's right. So when we click on share, it shows us this screen. Since I've already shared a document, now you can see that the document here says shared with Boyd, Nikki, and one other person. And if I click on that, it shows me every detail.
Yep.
So I know exactly who is participating in the document. Oh, okay. And and also what level of collaboration they're invited to. So actually I can individually set different levels of collaboration. And right now I think it's time for Boyd and Nikki and Rob to just comment the documents. So we're going to change. They were allowed to edit the document as peers. So everybody was welcome to participate in the document as peers, but now I want to restrain that a little bit, or another way to put it is that I want to track in more detail the suggestions my collaborators, my friends have in this document. So now that I've made this change, I am going to save this, and now I will ask you if you can, okay, we have a bunch of suggestions here. One more thing I didn't explain is that you can accept suggestions, and I'm going to accept all the suggestions right now. And could you please, Boyd, Robin, and Nikki, modify things in the document now and in the paragraphs of text, and let's see what this looks like now. So could you delete stuff, add text in the document? So we're seeing how, again, Rob is adding a word here. Boyd, maybe you could delete some text. Okay, so we just, see, with this mark here, we're seeing that Boyd is suggesting deleting text. And this is showing up here now as suggestions. So I've restrained my collaborators from editing. Now they are only making suggestions, and it's very easy for me to track who is doing what on the documents. So let's start with this example right here. We see that it's marked in blue, and when I click on it, I see that Robert made this suggestion. He wants to delete this, and he also wants to add this piece of text here. So I can go one by one and approve these changes.
Mhm.
So that's a good idea, Rob. I'm going to approve this change and approve
That's
this
good.
other change.
Latin prefers its verbs at the end of the sentence. Proof is like Latin.
Vahid, there's another question which is pertinent, and it's a very good question. It is,
Please.
can you see the history of comments after you have resolved them, in case you want to go back and look and see what was already resolved?
Absolutely. So there's a little button that says right next to share, open comment history. And when you go to open comment history, this is what you will see, what the suggestion was and whether the suggestion was accepted or rejected.
And the time as well.
And the timestamp as well. Yeah.
Question from Tyler: in new collaborators be?
Well, that's a great question. So if I go back to the share button, I can add new participants anytime I want. So I clicked on share, and again, Google is asking me, so who do you want to add now? So I can keep on adding as many participants as I want, and I always can check with the names button. I can always check who is allowed at what level of participation. So this is not something you do once and for all. The document is always live, always willing to accept changes, until I decide that I don't need Rob to modify this anymore, so I can take him out.
Good idea.
Take him out means that he cannot edit this document anymore. So I'm going to save that change. And now you can see that Rob is not allowed into the edition of this document anymore. Okay, so the changes that people have done, okay, here I can see that Boyd made a change. He wants to delete that and put that on the next line. I don't really like that suggestion, and I'm going to reject that. We're going to keep the text as is because this works better. And there's another suggestion. Okay, Rob was in the mood to suggest a lot of stuff, so I'm looking at it, and okay, actually that was a good idea, so I'm going to accept it. So this is how you go about using the tool of suggestions. And you can do that to other people, but you can also do it to yourself, meaning here with this pen, it shows me my options in terms of editing mode. and I can put myself into a suggesting mode. So I can see that this paragraph that let's say Nikki wrote is great, but now this is a better ending. I'm going to add text, but since I am in suggesting mode, it's now showing all the other participants that the text has been modified by me, and we could go and have other people look at my suggestions, see if it makes sense or not. So this way we can all edit. And this is, so another example, I want to delete this. So I'm going to delete it. And my suggestion is visible for all the other participants that I'm suggesting to delete this word. So this way, we are all working on the same document, but we're making highly visible, highly easy to understand for other people to see what changes we are proposing. So this is the suggesting mode that helps us navigate through a document. So we've discussed how to actually go into the different levels of collaboration. We have been using comments, we have been using suggesting, and now another tool that is very useful is using styles. So how do you use styles in Google Docs? It's pretty simple. You can just select text that you want to write, to look at, but first I need to get back, I'm going to get back to editing because it's easier on the eyes. So I've selected a piece of text, and now I'm going to put this text, instead of normal text, into heading. And that was a mistake. That was way too much text to put as a title. So I'm going to give it an enter here. And because what Google does is that it takes the whole paragraph, meaning until the all the text up to the next break, enter, hard break or enter. And I'm going to put it in the style called heading 1. Then here I'm going to do the same and put the text as heading 2, or heading 1 or 2, depending on how my document is set up. Section 2, easier. Section 1. And then I'm going to write section 3 and put some text here. And section 3 is going to be also a heading 1. And lo and behold, to the left, there's a button that says Show Document Outline.
Mm.
So this is this will show all the titles that all the headings that I've selected, put them in their order of sequence in the document, and show them to me immediately. And actually, yep.
And using the heading feature, not only does it, of course, produce this outline, but if people are blind, this will also show up for them. That's headings. That's one of the nice things about using headings.
Exactly. And you will notice that there are different levels of headings, heading 1, 2, 3, which facilitate navigating in between larger sections and smaller subsections of a text. So please experiment with that. The nice thing about it is that if you use headings, you have this table of content that is built up for you automatically. You don't need to do anything else. It's always there, available and visible to anybody that is working on the document. And if you're working on a larger document, you can just jump between sections, clicking directly on those different parts of the text. So it's a very practical feature. And notice that if I modify this and delete it, then on the outline, it's also modified in real time immediately. So it makes navigating a document a lot easier when we're working on longer documents. So that's a little nifty trick about using styles. Always do that. And also now we can go back to the question of what happened when in the Google Doc. So Google Doc is, the technical term for it is a wiki, meaning a tool that allows people to create documents and several people to connect and work on the documents and modify its contents. And once you're doing that on an electronic document, it's very easy to put timestamps and to see the evolution of the document. So how do you do this monitoring of the evolution of the document? You go to File, and you look at the version history. So there are two options there. You can name the current version. Let's say that this is the version for Saturday, and we want to call it draft number 1. We could do this right now. But most of the time, you don't really need that. Maybe you do need it at some points. Most of the time, what you want to do is go to the version history. So when you go to the version history, you can look at the document at different points in time. So we can look at a document how it was at 11:54 a.m. But what I really want to see is when I open the document, what it looked like. So at 11:27 a.m., I click on this, and it shows me that this version was a blank sheet of paper, nothing on it. Once we have been working on a document for a longer period, you will see that the different dates and times will keep adding up, and will make it very easy for people to see what the document looked like at different points in time. And you will notice this big button that says Restore this version. That indicates that we want to go back to a previous version before somebody maybe made a big mistake and deleted a whole bunch of stuff. You can always go back to previous versions so that people have an easy time recovering the document before a big problem happened. This is the way the view history works. So this is in the under File, and then version history, see version history. This is how we access this part.
Someone just
And
asked,
now,
can all the co-authors and collaborators see the, no one away, wouldn't you know it? See
the version history?
The same editing and
Editing
other
options.
options as the person who is the primary document creator.
Could you repeat that, Nikki, please?
Can all the co-authors stroke collaborators see the same editing and other options as the person who is the primary document creator?
So that's a great question. Rob, can you come back to edit this document after I've kicked you out?
Yeah, probably not. Let's see.
So can you go back and try to open the link on the email I sent you?
It says I need permission.
Okay, so once I've kicked Rob out of this document, he can get back into it.
I just requested access.
Great. So when Rob requests access, that will send me an email, and then I can make a decision about. There we go. So
I think the short answer is that as long as we have those privileges, remember Vahid was saying he can give you the privilege to be an editor or to be just a viewer or to be a commenter only. So whatever privilege you give that person, they'll be able to see those things. But as the owner of the document, I think Vahid is probably the only one who will see. Will we be able to see version history? Let me look. I'm only in viewing mode now because I can only view.
I still haven't gotten access.
So it's only the creator really, I think, who can see all of those things and make all of those.
Yeah, if I switch to peer, I'm pretty sure you'll be able to see that. So back to the email or the request for access that Rob has made, you can see that that's created an email for me. I can open the sharing settings. So it will open the document again. And then it will show, it will ask me whether I do want to invite Rob back again. So I'll just add a message, and I make sure that notify people is on. And this time I'm allowing Rob to edit directly, so he can go into the document and make as many changes as he wants. And Rob can come back to the documents. He will be receiving an email and be able to join immediately the documents.
Yeah, I'll try to get in a second here.
All right.
Where the heck am I? Oh, I'm the wrong. There we go.
And so we just So Rob should be receiving an email with the blue button to join the document. And we can see with this icon here that with the big R, that Rob is back into the document. So, and if I'm not connected to the Google Doc still exists. People can connect at any time, whether I am connected or not, because I've given permission to the other participants to join in and participate in improving the document whenever they want. Okay, so what else can we do with the Google Doc? We can download as. So what does that look like? We go into the documents, we go to File, and we can download the documents as Word documents if we're more comfortable with that tool, or a PDF document if we just want something that looks nice and ready to print. So those are options that we have when we want to work offline or have the document offline. We don't want to use it on a live web page. We just want to have it on our computer. So those are options that we find in File, Download, and then we pick the format we want, either a Word document or a PDF. If you're interested in just printing the documents, notice that there's a print icon in the toolbar. You're welcome to use that directly if you want to. That should work just the same. And with
Someone here says that you can use Grammarly also with a Google Doc, and that it does a better job of checking grammar than Google's own grammar checker.
So in Tools, you can see spelling and grammar, and you can use the spelling grammar check. But I would agree that Grammarly at this point is probably a better tool. Let's just give Google a couple of years to catch up with Grammarly, probably. And notice that there's a word count tool that can be useful sometimes also. So those are a couple options worth noting. And with that, okay, make a copy. That's the last function I wanted to show. On a Google Doc, you can make a copy of a document. And what that will do is that it creates an exact copy of the Google Doc you're working on. You can just change the name of it. My other copy of this. And we have options. In this case, it's just a copy that I want to have for my own use. So that's an easy way to have a copy of a document at any time. So in some cases, when you find a Google Doc that you're working on that you like and you want to have a copy of, this is how you go about it.
Can I just say that that's good for minutes? Because sometimes you want it in the same format, and so you just do it and copy it, and then the next time you update the dates and whatever, and yeah.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Fantastic. So let's go to, we're running out a little bit beyond the time, so let's quickly discuss the do's and don'ts, the things to do and things to avoid on Google Docs. One interesting shift that this proposes, it's something that we've never seen before. Because we are working on an electronic document, you've just seen how 4 people were working together at the same time on creating a document. We could not really do that on paper before, and so this is a new mode of work that we need to wrap our minds around. And so I invite you to take it as an experiment and something that might enrich your online life and your daily life maybe. Working through collaboration is really a new mindset. So I invite you to embrace it, experiment, and learn from it. Another thing that is useful, always add comments. On Google Doc, it's very easy to add comments. You're not sure about something, you have ideas, please add comments and do that liberally. As many comments as you want. People can just solve the comments when they want. And if people are making comments on your document or comments that are of interest to you, please do reply to the comments. That's a way to discuss around a document that will make it a whole lot easier for everyone. And another thing that is nice to do is if you're going to take several paragraphs and move them in a different place in a Google Doc, it's nice to ask first and then do it. in order to make sure that everybody's okay with it and everybody's has a good understanding of why you're doing it. Because otherwise, there are surprises when chunks of the text disappear and move around and people don't understand why. So those are things to do, good practices. On the things to avoid, as always, we know that kindness, compassion, generosity are things that will win hearts over and will be good for everybody's psychological mood in those testing times. So please be nice and ask around whatever you need to ask around before making significant changes to a document. And again, we've seen the suggesting tool. That's a good way to emphasize that you are promoting some changes to be made, but at the same time, you're giving people the option to look at it and improve it. So using the suggesting mode when you want significant changes is a very good tool. And a rule of thumb precaution, please avoid deleting other people's contributions. Before deleting chunks of text, ask people, hey, what do you think about deleting that? That's something that I've seen as let's say a rookie's mistake. We just don't like something, don't appreciate it, don't see the value of it. We just go and delete it. And sometimes that can ruffle some feathers, that can make people feel the wrong way. So instead of that, mark the text, use the suggesting mode, and suggest this part of the text be deleted. It's clear that sometimes we need to delete stuff, and something great about the view history that we just showed is that we can always go back. But the polite way to go about this on Google Docs is to use the suggestion tool before we actually go ahead and make huge modifications. And with that, that's what's the key elements we wanted to discuss about Google Docs. I don't know if we have questions specifically
There's
on
one
this.
more question that
Please.
someone has asked from a while now, but I was waiting for the presentation. Okay, so annual LSA election, we plan on mailing in ballots and a Zoom meeting to report the findings. However, if there is a tie, we need a way to quickly poll or collect votes to break the tie. Any suggestions?
That's let's say modifying how elections are done is a serious step. I would really recommend seeking guidance from the NSA before implementing any changes.
I assume that poll won't work. You still have to put your name on it, then it becomes public who you're voting for.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, doodle.com would not be the way to go about it. Definitely not. I would suggest you send
A
an inquiry to
panelist
the
has
NSA.
suggested, may I say, a panelist has, an attendee has suggested tie breaks can be scheduled for a future day. It does not need to be done immediately. You don't need to rush it. So.
Okay, that's another way to go about it. I think the NSA will be in a position to provide guidance. My impression is that the NSA is very much understanding of what the situation we're in right now calls for, and will probably be giving suggestions to LSAs on how to proceed with local elections, and probably even the convention at this point, the national convention. So maybe write in advance to the NSA if your LSA has questions about it. And let's find ways to be respectful of the Baha'i spirit for elections. That would be my comment.
Yeah, one of the problems you've got is that, for example, if you've got a very small community and everyone has email, you could tell people to call in their votes. But the difficulty is in most communities, everyone doesn't have email. So you can't even notify most of the electors, most of the voters, that there's a tie. So there's no easy way of letting people know. So you probably have to, because unless there's an actual annual meeting with people present, then of course they can vote. But if there's no annual meeting when people are present, then you'd have to come up with a solution.
Yep. So please seek guidance with the NSA, I think is the short answer.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's move on to Zoom questions. There had been a couple things we wanted to share in relation to what we discussed on Monday, and Nikki wanted to show a functionality that we did not discuss on Monday. Please go ahead.
Okay, I forgot to make sure that my computer sound was being shared, so I'm gonna do that now. So here we go.
Video breakout rooms allow Zoom users to easily place meeting attendees into sub-meetings for group discussion, activities, projects, and more. To get started, log in at zoom.us and view the Meeting Settings section. Click to edit advanced settings and make sure that Breakout Rooms is checked. The next time you host a Zoom meeting, you will see the Breakout Rooms button at the bottom of the Zoom panel. While you are sharing your screen,
Everybody froze up again.
the button is under the More menu. Click here to start using breakout rooms. Zoom will show the number of eligible participants. Choose how many rooms to create and let Zoom assign the participants automatically, or choose to manually assign for more control, as we'll demonstrate here. Create breakout rooms to proceed. Your breakout rooms are now available, and participants are still in the main meeting. Float your mouse over the breakout room to rename or delete the room. Click to assign participants, check their names, and click Assign again. Do this for each breakout room. Your participants are now assigned. If you want to change an assignment, float your mouse over a participant name where you can move the participant to another room or exchange the participant with someone already assigned to another room. When you're ready, click to open all rooms. This will cause your participants to automatically move into their assigned breakout room. The list will indicate that participants have successfully connected when the gray dot turns green. Meeting participants will be prompted to join breakout rooms where they can speak on audio, show their webcams, share screen, and chat as normal. They can also ask for help to send a prompt to the meeting host. Participants can also choose to leave the breakout room anytime to be returned to the main meeting. Return to the breakout rooms list as the host, and you can choose to join any of the breakout rooms to offer assistance. You can broadcast a message to participants, and a banner will be displayed. This is great for instructions or timing announcements. Again, float your mouse over a participant name to move the participant. When you are ready, close the breakout rooms. Participants will have 60 seconds to finish their discussion and will be returned to the main meeting. Open the breakout rooms menu again to quickly reopen the same breakout rooms or to make new assignments. To learn more, visit zoom.us/live training to register for weekly training sessions. Need help? Visit support.zoom.us for 24/7 assistance.
And I'll say just one more thing. The Zoom support is pretty overwhelmed right now, but they have great tutorials. There will be a link in the handout. You can watch this video again and also see the web page that has detailed written instructions that you can follow.
Right on. Thank you so much, Nikki. So if you have a large meeting, maybe a cluster reflection meeting or some other meeting where maybe a workshop type or maybe a study circle where you want to have work in smaller groups, breakout rooms is a great option to facilitate that for all the participants. They'll just discuss among themselves, but the host of the meeting can create and close when participants need to come back together with great ease. So that's a very handy function. Okay, so now we're approaching the finishing line for this meeting. I wanted to mention that one thing I got wrong on the previous webinar was about random generated numbers for Zoom rooms and a fixed ID number for Zoom rooms when we are creating a meeting. So the correct explanation is exactly the opposite. Each Zoom account is given a fixed number, and if you want to repeat meetings that are attached to your fixed number, that's what you want to use. If, on the other hand, you want to create a meeting that has a random number, then generate a random number. That way, it's harder to track for people with ill intentions and join meetings they're not invited to. So I wanted to clarify that that little detail. And so maybe now we can have a round of Q&A. I don't know if there are questions left that we want to consider.
Yes, yes,
Please.
there's a question. Someone asked if you could show how to make a folder, because one of our attendees gave a tip, a very good tip about using a folder. And what they said is that you can make a folder in your Google Drive and not to leave your documents in the root area of your drive. It's really good to have a folder, and then each person can add the folder to their own drive. And that will be easier for them to access any, joint documents like minutes or something.
Absolutely. So a great suggestion. So what we need to understand first is that the Google Docs we create are all saved into a Google Drive. The Google Drive is the repository of all the documents that we have available to us. So in order to access that, we just go into a new tab in our browser and type drive.google.com. And this will open our drive. And here you have a perfect example of why I'm not an organized person. I don't have any folders. So I need to put some order here. So what I need here is to go to the New button. And once I've clicked on New, I can click on Folder. And of course, I have to give a name to this folder. So I'll call it this folder webinar number 2, create. And here I have the folder that says webinar number 2. And now I can move this document into, no, I can't do it directly. So let's say when I'm on webinar number 2, right now it's empty, but I could add document to it. So if I'm looking at this document about the Community Tech webinar number 2, I
think you might be able to move there.
I'll be able to move it. Yes, move to. Okay, sorry. So if I right click, that's the faster way. I right click, and on Macs, I don't know how you right click, but there must be a way. I right click and click on Move To. It asks me where I want to move it, and inside Drive, I want to move it to the folder called Webinar number 2. Move, so I can double check I'm on the folder webinar number 2 now. Move here, and this item will be visible to everyone who can see webinar number 2 because I've shared this document with other people. I just move it, and now when I open the folder, I can see that effectively my presentation is in the folder webinar number 2. So yes, keeping my Google Drive organized with folders is a good tip. It will help, especially when you start running a large collection of documents. Having folders is really nice. So start that as soon as you can.
Okay, another very urgent question.
Yep.
Someone is asking, please discuss the issue of confidentiality on Zoom.
Okay, so in the previous meeting, I already mentioned that if a government agency or some kind of techno hacker wants to do things and listen into your conversation on your Zoom, they'll find a way to do it. I have no question about it. Now, especially in the case of an LSA, a local spiritual assembly, discussing sensitive topics, the issue we might have is that maybe we're in a room in our home and we are part of the consultative group that is discussing this delicate matter. And maybe our sons, our daughters, our spouses are walking around. They might be hearing about this sensitive discussion that the LSA is having. So maybe one trick is to find a room where you can isolate yourself better. Maybe you can use headphones to make sure that it's only you listening to the conversation in your home. Those are a few precautions you could take. Um, I, if we are sharing spaces, if my computer is in the living room, it's going to be hard. It might not be appropriate to discuss this topic in the living room with members of my family walking around. So that's a call that the LSA members have to make, and maybe to make together that now is not a good time. We can't have the private discussion we want to have. So that would be my comment on confidentiality.
Boyd also has made a comment here that Zoom solution provides end-to-end encryption and meeting access controls. And Zoom says data in transit cannot be intercepted. And
However,
that they protect and
they
encrypt.
still got hacked twice in their enterprise version. I just read down, can Zoom be hacked? It says, yeah, security breach for their enterprise users. Basically into the web. Vahid's comment is very.
Yeah, yeah.
You always,
yeah, on the internet, nothing is private. Forget, and people with ill intentions and enough of a budget will get in.
I look at
generally
it, the
speaking-
98% of people having percent chance are probably not going to ever get touched.
Absolutely.
it's like a school of fish. The reason the fish are in the school is because if the school gets attacked, something will get eaten, but most of them won't. It's the same way with the internet. The chances are small because you're one of a zillion, but it still can happen. Unless people are really looking for you too, of course. That's another problem. Michael asks, does the folder in Google have to be shared as well? When you put a document in a folder.
So that's a great question. So you could set up a folder to be shared exactly the same way as a Google Doc. So if you are going to work on a bunch of documents, maybe some presentations, some spreadsheets, some docs, Word type documents, maybe sharing the whole folder at once will be easier than creating the documents one by one. So you can just give permissions for people to collaborate around this document. So in this case, I'm right-clicking on the folder webinar number 2. I can click on share. And here I can give permission to Rob and Nikki and Boyd to edit. They can organize, add, and edit documents into the folder. So let's get some work done. So I'm inviting them to create documents that will be shared amongst us, and edit documents that are in this folder. I'm giving them permission to work together with all the contents of the whole folder here. So that's what we were showing previously, is working in a single document. When I share a folder, we will be having all these permissions granted at the folder level. So all documents that are in this folder will be shared.
One person has noted that Zoom has not made their privacy policy available. So that's, I suppose, one thing to keep in mind. And then another person has noted that we need guidance from the institutions on the topic of confidentiality when we're working on things like Google Docs. I think it's always safe to assume that you should use Google Docs for non-confidential documents, since then you don't have to worry about anything being shared.
And you can also move that folder that is shared with you to your drive so that it's easier to find on your own drive.
Yeah, I propose we don't get into too much details. And regarding confidentiality, I would just mention that people with ill intentions, so if one member of the community has ill intentions and wants to share a document, they can do that both with a physical document or with an electronic document. At this point in time, it's pretty easy to take a picture of a document and send it to whomever we want. So I don't see much difference in the levels of confidentiality you have between something online and something that is offline in nowadays anyways.
Someone mentions the use of life-size cloud for meetings. Do you know anything about that?
No, I'm not aware of that tool. Maybe we can research it and look at it in a different webinar.
there. So I always like taking a look at, what other people are using. And GoToWebinar, for example, has been years and years. I started using it in 2007. Zoom has been for a couple of years now. Solution. But I think for most people, Zoom is probably the best solution right now because a free version that's going to solve a lot of problems.
Cisco systems also has been very widely used with the web video. That was, I think, the most common one that was used by companies
Right.
back, say, 2 years ago, 3 years ago.
Yeah, in these webinars, we've been deliberate in trying to find free tools or tools that have no cost, just require an account to set up, because we hope that this will be, and tools that are fairly easy to use, because we hope that this will be what most friends will be able to use in an easy manner. There will be, as Boy just mentioned, more advanced, more fancy tools, and also definitely more expensive tools to work with.
Someone just asked a question about how to edit a photo in Google Docs.
So in Google Docs, you have very limited options. You can crop a picture, meaning cutting on the sides and modifying how big it is or how small it is in the doc. The options are very limited. It's not a tool that helps a lot with regards to editing pictures.
Is around, is it a lot like using editing a photo in Word? And I think that generally, yes.
Yeah, you're generally better off editing photos with some other tool and then dropping it into Google Docs is my guess.
There was a whether Zoom, WhatsApp things are better. I think we all have our there, but any suggestions of how to answer that? Best tool out there.
Yeah, so they serve a little bit of different purposes, and in the next webinar, we'd like to discuss community chats. So actually, we'll be discussing WhatsApp there. I'd say that you have to think of different situations. When you want to sit down and have, let's say, a longer conversation, Zoom, a video conference tool will be more appropriate. But if you want to just say hi and ask, what do you think about this? A chat tool such as WhatsApp will be more appropriate. So there are different tools for different needs. If it's more of an ongoing conversation throughout the week, a chat tool such as WhatsApp is more appropriate. But when we need to consult with a little bit more depth, then a video conference such as Zoom is more appropriate. That would be my comment on this.
I just wondered if something like Jitsi might be useful, because I was talking to someone who said that it's openware, so you could have it on your own server if someone has the capabilities to host it on their own server. That might make it more secure.
Or not.
Or not yet.
Because yeah, having your own server exposes you also to people with ill intent that precisely targets private servers and smaller
True.
servers that don't have a whole lot of, that can't afford high level security that larger companies can.
And it takes a
But
lot of
again-
resources. And I like to leverage, Facebook and to do the heavy lifting. Otherwise, there's a lot of video
Right.
hosting services out there. They cost a lot of money, but especially as
Yes.
and how much you're streaming and that kind of thing.
Okay.
Okay, so in our next webinar, we'll be covering precisely the topic of community chat. So thank you for bringing it up, and things to do and not to do on a community chat. And Boyd will give us a primer on public meetings, how to stream your meeting to YouTube and Facebook in less than 50 clicks, we hope. So this will be the topic for Monday evening's webinar. You're again welcome to join and bring questions. In the meanwhile, please let us know what your community needs. If there's a topic that we have not yet addressed that you think is important that communities should be aware of, please send us an email to communitytech@wilmetinstitute.org so that we can put that into our list of topics to cover. And if you have questions and suggestions, this is also the email to send it to, and we'll try to reply as soon as possible. Their questions and comments and suggestions are all welcome. Rob, back to you.
Yeah, I'm just looking here at some of the other questions and comments. Someone says they're a good free conference call tool. So that might be something to cover next time also, about conference calls. And someone asked why Jitsi if Zoom is quite the best. Well, we had just mentioned Jitsi as an alternative. I guess you could say recommend Zoom mostly because familiarity with it. And of course it's free, just like Jitsi, and seems to do more things. Sheila asks if we could show people how to set up a Ruhi study of the various Ruhi books next time. And that, I think, is very similar to the whole question of doing a devotional where you'd have different people reading prayers. So I think probably our Monday evening program will cover basically how to do those kinds of things. So I think that's all of the questions and answers and everything in the chat that we have.
I want to say one last thing.
Please.
Please go to our website to get updates on the upcoming webinars. We started out with community tech, but our faculty are busy working on other things as well. We have a seminar series for youth and junior youth, 11 to 17 years old. So if you have children or grandchildren who are that age and you're interested in getting them signed up, you can go to that page and you can see at the bottom of it, we have a link to sign up for that. So that's wilmetinstitute.org/wi-live-free. And I have that in the chat. And you can find it on our website. It's a new tab on the right side at the top.
Yeah, the program we're preparing for 11 to 17-year-olds is titled Transformative Leadership. And this is a program for junior youth and youth. And it'll probably start next Friday. We have now just set up a space for it in our Moodle course delivery system, and we have it set up in our registration system. So we'll probably be sending an email out tomorrow with the link to this recording on YouTube. And of course, we'll also be reminding people of the link on Monday to the last of the community tech seminars. But in that, we'll probably be able to put a link up for the transformative leadership for 11 to 17-year-olds as well. And we hope starting next week, we may have a few programs also, sort of evening discussion programs for anyone. And we're even looking at possibilities of doing things which are essentially firesides, and possibly we'll have some prominent Baha'is who will be involved in that as well. Some people like that. So I think that's all of our announcements and all the information that we wanted to convey to everyone. So I want to thank everyone for joining us today. Thank Vahid again for your very valuable advice. Thank you, Boyd, for your input as well and for running the whole thing. And Nikki, as always, for your comments and suggestions. And again, thank you everyone for joining us. Have a good remainder of your weekend, and we look forward to seeing you on Monday.
Everyone, bye.
Yep, bye-bye.